The night could have ended very differently. One wrong turn, one quiet road, one moment where kindness showed up when money, power, and status meant nothing at all. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know her name. All he knew was that someone needed help, and he couldn't walk away. If stories about quiet heroes and unexpected kindness move your heart, take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. You're watching Kindness Diaries, a place where simple acts remind us who we really are. The rain had started just minutes before the crash. Daniel Carter gripped the steering wheel of his old pickup truck, eyes focused on the narrow road ahead. His 8-year-old son, Noah, sat beside him, humming softly, clutching a worn comic book he'd read 100 times already. Daniel had just finished a long shift at the warehouse. Overtime again. It was the only way to keep the lights on since Noah's mom passed away 3 years earlier. Life hadn't been gentle with him, but Daniel had learned to keep going anyway. Then he saw the smoke. Headlights flashed through the rain, revealing twisted metal ahead. A luxury sedan sat sideways across the road, its front crushed. Steam rising from the hood, shattered glass, glittered across the asphalt like broken stars. Daniel's foot hit the brakes. "Dad?" Noah whispered. "Stay in the truck," Daniel said calmly, though his heart was pounding. He grabbed his jacket and stepped into the rain. As he approached the wreck, he heard a faint groan. Inside the car was a woman, barely conscious. Blood trickled from her forehead. Her breathing was shallow, uneven. The air smelled of gasoline. Daniel didn't hesitate. He forced the door open, bracing himself against the bent frame. Carefully, gently, he spoke to her, keeping his voice steady even as fear tightened his chest. "You're going to be okay," he said, though he didn't know if it was true. With effort, he pulled her free, just as sparks flickered near the engine. He carried her away from the car, laying her down on the grass by the roadside, shielding her from the rain with his own body. Noah watched from the truck, eyes wide, scared but also proud. Sirens echoed in the distance minutes later. Paramedics rushed in, taking over. Police asked questions. Daniel answered briefly, quietly. When they thanked him, he nodded. One of the responders glanced at the car and froze. "Do you know who that is?" he asked. Daniel shook his head. "That's Eleanor Whitmore," the man said softly. "She's one of the richest women in the country." Daniel blinked once. It didn't change anything. As soon as he knew the woman was alive and in good hands, Daniel turned back to his truck. He didn't leave his name. He didn't ask for recognition. He just drove away into the rain, heading home with his son. The next morning, Daniel was back at the warehouse, lifting boxes like nothing extraordinary had happened. Bills still waited. Lunch was still a peanut butter sandwich. Life went on. But across town, in a quiet hospital room, Eleanor Whitmore opened her eyes. She remembered the crash, the fear, the darkness, and then a voice, warm, steady, kind. When she asked about the man who saved her, the staff had little to offer, just a description. A pickup truck, a child in the passenger seat. Eleanor felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest, gratitude deep and humbling. For the first time in years, she realized how fragile life really was. How, in her moment of greatest need, it wasn't money or security teams that saved her. It was a stranger. Days passed. Then weeks. Daniel struggled as usual. Rent was overdue. Noah needed new shoes. One night, the electricity flickered off, leaving them sitting in the dark. Daniel wrapped his arm around his son and smiled anyway. "We'll be okay," he said. The next afternoon, a knock came at the door. Two people stood outside, one in a suit, the other holding a folder. They asked for Daniel Carter. Confused, he listened as they explained who they represented. They spoke of the accident, of Eleanor Whitmore, of gratitude. Daniel felt his throat tighten. Inside the folder was a letter. It was handwritten. Eleanor thanked him not for saving her life, but for reminding her what kindness looks like when no one is watching. She said his actions changed her, and she wanted to change something for him in return. The offer inside was life-changing. Financial support, college funds for Noah, a home fully paid. Daniel sat down, overwhelmed. He didn't cry, he didn't cheer. He just held the letter quietly, thinking. The next day, he wrote back. His reply was short. He thanked her but refused the money. He explained that he helped because it was the right thing to do. That kindness, to him, wasn't a transaction. He said accepting the gift would change how that night felt in his heart. Instead, he asked for something else. He asked her to help people like him. Single parents, families one paycheck away from losing everything, people who would never make headlines. Eleanor read the letter twice. Then she smiled through tears. Months later, the Whitmore Foundation launched a new program housing, education, and emergency aid for struggling families across the country. Thousands were helped. And Daniel? He never met Eleanor again, but one morning his rent was mysteriously paid. Noah received a scholarship years later, anonymous, no strings attached. Daniel understood. Kindness had found its way back to him not as a reward, but as a ripple. Years later, Noah would ask his dad about that night. "Why didn't you take the money?" he asked. Daniel smiled. "Because sometimes," he said, "the greatest thing you can give the world is proof that kindness still exists. And that is the quiet power of kindness. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need wealth. It only needs a heart willing to stop when others pass by." If this story moved you, let it remind you, one small act can change lives sometimes, without you ever knowing how far it travels. Be that kindness. Spread it freely. And let the world be better because you were here.